at Royal Roads University, it's so important to us that we start both our in-person and virtual meetings with an acknowledgement of the traditional lands. So here at Royal Roads University, our campus is located on the traditional lands of the Kusepsum and Lekwungen ancestors and families. It's with great gratitude that we live, learn, and work where past, present, and future scopes of Indigenous and non-Indigenous faculty, staff, and students come together. This is a great time to test out that chat box function. So let us know, where in the world are you joining us from? If you feel comfortable, let us know, what sector are you working in? What are you hoping to learn from today's webinar? That'll help us better understand the types of information we can provide so this webinar is as helpful as it can be to all of you. And speaking of today's webinar, we are all here to explore the Master of Arts and Graduate Diploma in Justice Studies. My name is Selena Kunar, and I'm an education specialist here on campus. And I am thrilled to be joined by Dr. Michael Young, who's the director of our School of Humanitarian Studies and program head for our Justice Studies programs. Hey, Michael, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Selena, and hello, everyone. Glad you can join us, even if you're going to be watching this video recording afterwards. Do feel free to reach out if you have questions.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have a few slides coming up where we'll include our email and other ways you can connect with us. So as questions come up for you in today's session, pop them in the chat box, but keep the questions coming post-session as well. So before we get started talking about the program itself, we wanted to give you a quick snapshot of Royal Roads University. This program is offered in a blended format, which means that we bring together the best of an online learning environment with on-campus in-person learning intensives. So it's kind of fun to give you an idea of what our campus looks like. Being located in Victoria, BC, we're quite lucky that we have a mild climate most times. So these photos are a great depiction of what our campus looks like year-round. So with that, let's talk about some of the programs that we have here on our campus, starting with our suite of Justice Studies programs. So within our Justice Studies programming, we offer, of course, our Master of Arts, which is a 2-year program, blended so that online and on campus, you're going to come on down to our campus 2 times throughout the duration of that program. And our master's programs have 3 different completion options, which we'll talk about in a few slides as well. We also have our graduate diploma. So our graduate diploma is generally that first year of our Master of Arts. So the length will vary, but you will for sure come to our campus at least 1 time to participate in some face-to-face learning to complement your online experience. And as part of our suite of Justice Studies programming, we also have a Bachelor of Arts program as well. This is what we call degree completion. So we're providing our learners the opportunity to complete years 3 and 4, and they can do that with us on campus in one very, very busy year, or in a blended format as well over 2 years. But today we're here to talk about our graduate programs. So I will pass the microphone over to you, Michael, to tell us why Justice Studies at RRU.
Yeah, so why Justice Studies at RRU? Well, one of the big things it's not on the slides here is that basically the program we have developed is the only program of its kind in Canada. It's a unique perspective that we take, and this is what you will see in the first paragraph here, is that we're looking at justice from several perspectives in different contexts as well. So we basically at the university focus or deliver concentrate on interdisciplinary programming, but transdisciplinary programs as well are basically provide us an opportunity to look at perspectives and to address problems based on we want to call it the collaboration and cooperation of different disciplines that come together to form solutions to what we'll call vexatious problems. So problems that have been facing us for many, many years that we can never seem to really get a grip on are the ones that we tackle. And I'll talk a little bit about what those might be in a little while. But what we're encouraging is systematic thinking and systemic critique, analysis of justice, and skills that allow for us to be problem focused and problem solving. In a way, we're kind of like advocates because we work with the communities and the people who are experiencing the problems towards the solution. And we've noted a few sectors down there, but generally in any of the helping areas where people find themselves, this degree is quite suitable. We also find that in the area of justice services, for example, at the criminal justice level for sure, but we also see importance of having this degree in the area of policy research and policy analysis. And so there's many opportunities for people to gain from this particular credential. We have people from nonprofit and for-profit organizations, international relations and organizations, and any kind of justice-related agency. Next slide, please. So some pathways. Now this is, I think we've done a pretty good job of putting this forward in a way that makes sense for people. It is a little bit cumbersome when you're not used to the academic community or the way that academic institutions do things, which sometimes don't always seem to line up with other business models. But basically, if you're in the first year of studies, whether you're taking the diploma or the actual degree, the first year is the same. And the courses that you'll take, I'll talk a little bit more in a moment, but you see them listed there. Foundations in Transdisciplinary Justice, Current Issues in Justice, Indigeneity in Justice, Foundations in Research, Case Studies in Transdisciplinarism, and Transdisciplinary Approaches to Social Justice. Now that's in the residency at the end. So the Case Studies and Transdisciplinary Approaches are the two courses that you take at the same time during the residency, which is about 2 weeks of you being on campus for full day studies for those 2 weeks. Now, if you decide that you want to do a course-based track, well, you can. And you can say, I don't want to do a thesis and I don't want to do an internship, but a course-based is fine. And so what you'll do is you'll have a series of electives that you can choose from once you get through the first year. One of the main courses that you'll have to take is still going to be policy analysis, which is offered during the second residency, along with another course. Then you have 3 other electives and a short paper that gives you a chance to summarize your learning over the 2 years that you've been in the program. Now, if you decide to do an internship, it's kind of the same as the course-based track, except the internship is worth 6 credits, and you get 1 elective instead of 3 electives, and then you have to complete what we call a HUM-SIP course, which is a course related to the work experience that you would have in an internship. It too requires that short paper at the end. Now, the thesis track, more of the traditional kind of academic education that people may have at the master's level, requires you to have an advanced research methods course and another course that's going to be required at that time, and it could be the advanced policy analysis course, for example. Then the remaining credits are dedicated to the thesis. And if you're concerned, or not concerned, if you're curious about the thesis, you can go online to see what we do in terms of thesis research. You'll find some links if you go poking around in the website. But generally, to give you sort of a very quick summary of what we do, it requires you to come up with a thesis question, and you do that during the advanced research methods course. And when you get that question, you then get to put together a research proposal idea. So it's not exactly a proposal, but it's an idea of the kind of research that you would like to do, the topic that you might have, and a potential research question. Once that's approved, and there's an approval process for this, you then start to put together a committee that's going to be able to work with you on your research proposal. And once the proposal is approved, you do the research, then you defend that research in what we call a public venue. These are done online, virtually, and then you're finished. Either way, it works out about the same amount of time. It's just different ways to get to the same place. And if you drive in BC right now, you know that generally there's only one way to get out of this area, and that's by plane. So that's my crack at humor, which I'm known for being very bad at. So the next slide, please. I'm cracking myself up only because I know how silly that sounds. So, sample course list. You will see that there's, I need to get on the same screen as you. I'm on my own computer here. The first three bullet points are really about what you're going to be doing here in the program. The rest of the bullet points, believe it or not, are all courses that you could take. Now, many of those courses, when you get to the second column, are electives. In fact, the electives start at the fifth bullet down, from the bottom, I should say. Foundation of child well-being. That would be, yeah, right about there. That's where the electives start. And there are some other, for example, advanced policy analysis and transdisciplinary practice, but it kind of moves around here, but suffice to say that you've got some really good options in terms of electives if you take course-based electives only, because courses like transdisciplinary and practice are great for looking at solution-focused research that's being done. Public Images of Justice and Fairness is a course that really allows people to look at the community, look at society, and look at what justice means to people. How is it expressed? I mean, it can be expressed in violence. It can be expressed also in terms of fairness. It can be expressed in terms of people coming together to promote an idea of fairness. So whether it's not a march, but let's say a rally towards advocating for peaceful resolution rather than violence. I mean, there's many ways that this can look at, and what people have done in the past on this is to look at specific issues like fairness in terms of wealth distribution and how that appears in society. And if you see enough homeless encampments, you kind of wonder what's going on. Where's the fairness here? So there's lots of things to pick from. I will stop there, I think, and I believe that the next slide is going to be into applications, and we can get into some more conversations about that in a minute. Thank you.
Amazing, Michael. Thanks so much. I know we didn't give you too much time today to dive in, but that was wonderful to learn all the different ways you can complete this program and all the different ways you can customize your learning as well. So any questions that came up as we were hearing Michael speak, pop them in the chat box, as we're just a few minutes away from answering some frequently asked questions. But before we do that, as Michael shared, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to apply. We're going to kick off that conversation with moving through our admission requirements. So here at Railroads University, we have both standard and flexible admissions. So starting with standard admissions into our Master of Arts or Graduate Diploma program in Justice Studies requires a 4-year or comparable undergraduate degree in a relevant and related field with a minimum GPA of a B+. You'll see the asterisk there beside related field, and that's because here relevant and related fields are defined by each program based on disciplinary and or professional practices. So as applicants, you're required to address how you consider your academic education to be relevant and related to justice studies here at Railroads. And you do that within your personal statement, which we'll talk about in a few slides. So flexible admissions. Flexible admissions is for those folks who might not have a traditional academic background that would be required when applying to a graduate program, but have extensive experience in the field, putting into action and practicing what we're going to be exploring in our classrooms. So for flexible admissions, we have a few different ways that works. So applicants who meet the degree requirement, but perhaps not the GPA requirement, will be required to have a minimum of 5 years of relevant professional work experience. Applicants without an undergraduate degree will normally require 10 years of work experience with a minimum of 2 years of relevant professional experience in leadership or management, or of course, an equivalent combination of education and experience. We also note here that folks joining us under flexible admissions, we require you to complete academic writing and critical thinking, a well-loved course on our campus. Rhonda can pop some links in our chat box, but I believe this course runs every month, if not a few times some months, as this course is a wonderful opportunity for learners who have been away from academic writing to brush up on their skills and make sure that you're entering your program with all the skills you need to have to succeed and get right into the learning and connecting with your cohort. I'll mention that flexible admissions is something that's assessed on a case-by-case basis. So if you have any questions about what any of these admissions criteria could mean for you, please connect with us. You can do that at learn.more@rollroads.ca, and that email will show up again in a few slides. Before I move on, Michael, was there anything you wanted to add around flexible admissions?
Yeah, just to put this out here, that the flexible admission process is something that really Royal Roads piloted a long time ago, and it works very well. And people who are hesitant about applying because they don't think they have the academic fortitude and ability should check with us, because if you've been working in an area that has strong career emphasis and you write reports, or if you do research for the place that you work for, or a little bit of everything, and you've been working in a kind of a supervisory position that allows you to, over time, take on increasing amounts of responsibility and supervision of others, then you're probably a good candidate for flexible admission. And all you really need to do is, in your application, put down what you've done and how you've progressed over time. And really, it's not about selling yourself, but some people sell themselves short in terms of what they've done and how far they've come, because I've been doing this job now for 10 years or whatever, and I do this, and this, and that seems pretty straightforward and it's nothing special. But actually it is, because to get there, you had to go through a process of learning, and it doesn't necessarily reflect sitting in a university or college classroom, but it does reflect your ability to dedicate and your ability to learn. And that's what we're looking for: somebody who is dedicated, somebody who's willing to learn, and they have the skills, the requisite skills to get started. And that's why the academic writing and critical thinking course is really important, because it's something that allows you to hone those skills into the academic context. So I'll just stop there. Thanks.
Oh, that was awesome, Michael. Thank you. Next, we have a slide on how exactly do you apply? Well, as is most things these days, it begins with an online application. And at Royal Roads, our online application comes with a fee of $128. And once that online application is in, you can check the status of your application anytime. Once it's been reviewed, we then look for some supporting documents. So for this program, we look for things like official transcripts, personal statement, detailed resume, and 2 letters of reference. Our website is a wonderful resource for helping you understand what these documents are and how you can put them together, and some more practical things like how can you submit them to our offices. So for example, official transcripts, official meaning that they need to be received by our offices from your sending institution. Personal statement. This is a wonderful place where we get to learn more about your interest and ability in the program. So the website has some great guiding questions to help kick you off. So things like, why do you wish to enroll in this Justice Studies program? What experience do you have in the area of justice studies? What special strengths do you bring to the program? At Roll Roads, you'll very quickly learn that a big portion of your learning comes not only from the wonderful scholar practitioners we have at the front of our classroom, so folks who are academic experts, but out in the world putting into practice what they're teaching, but from your cohort, your classmates as well. So it's so important that we get to know you better, to understand how we can ensure that a cohort is created to help you grow and understand how you can help grow your cohort. Of course, we have our detailed resume. So on our website, we have some info around what sections are we looking for you to include in that resume. And then for your letters of reference, looking for 2 letters of reference provided by a current past employers or those who have known the applicant in an academic or volunteer setting. Michael, did you want to talk a little bit about how the files are adjudicated or add anything else on what you look for in these documents?
Sure. Basically, we use a review system that's 2 or 3 tiered, depending on where you sit in terms of the process. But generally, if you hit all of the spots that we talk about with your GPA, then you don't have too many things to worry about. We just look at the fit for you in the program, which is a fairly straightforward one for us. When you're flexible admission, your file gets reviewed by the admissions office and by someone like me in terms of making sure that people have the requisite abilities to get through, the skills and the experiences to get through. We are, again, I would ask, again, that people really pay attention to what they've done and to make sure you tell us what you've done and how it relates to what you want to do with your education. And letters of reference, well, generally most people won't submit letters of reference that are negative, but if you find somebody that's going to submit a letter of reference for you, ask them just to highlight a couple of points about what makes you you and why you'd be a good fit for the program. And that's not a big ask, and I know that because I write a lot of reference letters for people doing different things. And that's a pretty simple ask, but it's a very important one in terms of giving you the support that you need going into the program. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Now that we've talked about the program, how you apply to the program, we want to highlight when this program starts. So we are actually just around the corner from our start date, our 2022 start date. The program will begin January 10th, which means we'd be looking for your online application to be submitted to Roll Roads by December 1st, 2021. And then very soon after, look for your supporting documents as well. If you're future planning, we have our 2023 deadlines noted as well. So our start date of January 9th, 2023, putting your application deadline at August 31st, 2022. Here at Roll Roads, we do something called, we accept our applications on a rolling basis. So what that means is we're not actually going to wait until December 1st to take a look at everyone who's applied to the program. Instead, we look at your online application. Once your supporting documents are in, we can adjudicate your file and let you know about your seat in the program. This is important to know because sometimes at Roll Roads, our programs can fill up quite quickly. So if you're interested in starting with us in 2022, get that online application in. Or if you're looking to 2023, do not feel obligated to wait until August 31st. Once your online application is in, that signals to us that you're interested in a seat in the program. Some questions we get around financial aid. Financial aid is such a critical component of continued education and future planning. So to make sure that we get you the right information at the right time, here we have a slide that shows you the link to our Financial Aid and Awards Office website, their direct phone lines, and some different things they can help you explore. So loans, awards, research scholarships, and other types of funding. As with most universities, this office is so underutilized. Please, if you're interested in applying to railroads, just shoot them a line, give them a call, because you never know what resources could be available to you, internal or external to railroads as well. With just a few minutes to go towards the end of our webinar today, we want to make sure we leave the slide up for just a few seconds to make sure you have the emails and phone numbers of where you can find us. So you might have noticed Rhonda in our chat box. Rhonda is a wonderful representative of our enrollment teams here on campus, eager to answer any questions you have about this program or any others on our campus as well. So you can find Rhonda and her team at learn.more@railroads.ca. And if you're joining us from outside of Canada, Rhonda's counterparts in our international admissions and registration team would be more than happy to help at learn.more.international@railroads.ca. So with that, we have come to a close on the formal portion of our presentation. We have just a few minutes left to go today, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to open up the chat box to see if we had any questions pop in. So we had Neil ask, is there a link to the previous thesis? Oh, great question. So here at Railroads, we actually keep our all of the different theses. Michael, you can let me know which one's right.
Theses.
Theses.
Yes.
Theses.
Yes.
On our website called the D space, so the dissertation space. So be sure to, Rhonda, if you have your fingertips on that, if you wouldn't mind popping in the chat box, that would be wonderful. If not, I can include that in our follow-up. It'll give you a flavor for all of the different things that our students explore here at Railroads. Oh, we have a great question from Neil. If I apply for the diploma program, can I elect to go for the master's at the end of year one? Over to you, Michael.
Absolutely. In fact, many people do that if they're not sure if they want to carry on, or if they're not sure they can do the work or whatever happens. And vice versa, if you make it into year one and then all of a sudden you realize that your life has changed and you want to withdraw but still want to have something to show for it, then yes, you can have the one-year diploma applied for at the same time. So yeah, you can do that. In fact, like I say, many people do that as not to test the water, but more likely to test themselves. And that's a perfect way to do it. And there's nothing wrong with it. And you can come back within a few years too, if you like.
Absolutely. I actually found myself in that exact same situation. I wasn't sure if I had the ability to cut it. So for my program, I started with the graduate certificate. It's usually just the first 3 courses of a master's program. Figured out how to fit it into my life, understood my capacity a bit better, jumped into the graduate diploma, of course, fell in love with my cohort and continued right on to the Master of Arts program. So we hear that all the time. And as someone who works here and says we hear that all the time, I needed to experience that pathway myself as well. So I see we have a few questions coming up into our chat box from Baines. Baines, thank you so much for joining us. Could you tell me the application deadlines for the upcoming term? Yes, so we are right around the corner from our first start date in January, putting our application deadline at December 1st. So if you have any questions to help support you getting that online application in before December 1st, let us know. And we have a great question here that segues into one of our frequently asked questions. So for the internship piece, Michael, does the internship have to be completed in BC? Or does the program support students finding something in their home program or in their home province or country?
So this is a part that takes a little bit to navigate, but generally what we do is we support students in the process of getting into that course, but we don't actually find those kind of settings for people. We hope that people will find those themselves, and generally that means that they come from an organization or from an area in the sector somewhere where they can actually make those connections and put together a plan. Now, you're not alone in that planning, though, and that's the important part. And that's where we help. And so, yes, it can be across the country. In fact, I think we've had people actually out of the country to do this. So I'm not sure in our program we've had this, but in the School of Humanitarian Studies, we've had people doing those outside of the country. So closer to home is always better, of course, but it depends. If you're from Ontario and you have a place where you can do a placement, like, that's awesome. That's great. Like, sure, absolutely. And we will work with that agency to supervise you and to get through the process. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
And then, Baines, you're joining us from one of our partner colleges. So, SAIT, any advice on choosing the year 2 online or year 1 in person? Well, great timing with that question. We actually have a wonderful recording from our Bachelor of Arts in Justice Studies, where we really dive into what are the differences between that fully on-campus experience, that 2-year blended. So what I can do, as we're short on time today, is make sure I send you the link to that. So you can expect an email from me in the next day or so. Michael, I see we have negative 2 minutes left. So I might just ask you one more question before we cut out today is, do you know how many seats there are in this program? And are they full? Is there still room to apply?
There's still room to apply. We have capacity. We have actually a lot of capacity. We like to keep the program less than 35 or so, and we're right around that at the moment. So there's still spaces. We can take up to 50, but we generally try not to. And when we get up that big, we'll split the cohort into 2 groups, basically, when we get to that. But yes, there are spaces, but you are certainly crunched for time in terms of getting the application in. So yes, come on in, I say, and join us.
Absolutely. Come on in, join us. And in doing so, ask us some more questions. We're out of time today, but as Michael mentioned, the conversation continues. So you can find us at learn.more@royalroads.ca, learn.more.international@royalroads.ca, and I can copy and paste those as well as phone numbers, Baines, into our chat box. So with that, we wish you all a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where in the world you're joining us or when you're watching this recording today. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.